2 Money in the Bank winners in Toronto, but only one left with the briefcase.
And in AEW, MJF turns heel. Again, we'll discuss.
It's time to roar around the ring. All right, Money in the Bank in Toronto. Drew McIntyre told us exactly what was going to happen, and he followed through with it to an extent, winning the Money in the Bank ladder match to open the show. And then when the world title match came around between Damian Priest and Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre attempting to cash in, but once again, CM Punk coming through to screw him and Seth, by the way, of that world title, because Priest went on to retain. By the way, Drew cashing in to make it a triple threat. Let me clarify that too. Did not wait till the end of the match. Did not do it before or anything like that. Right in the middle of the match, kind of like a WrestleMania Seth Rollins attempt. Made it a triple threat. That's when Punk got involved. How'd you feel about this screw job for CM Punk?
I know it serves to a broader story, but at least for me, this piling on Drew McIntyre is getting a little bit excessive now.
Sure.
I feel like whatever match he has with CM Punk coming out of this, he has to win that match.
Yeah.
Or they trade one win for the other. But it's just everything that Drew, again, I maintain, everything Drew McIntyre has said, everything that he's done, he hasn't been wrong. He hasn't lied. He's gone through every hoop put in front of him that he's jumped through. He's done this and that to get where he said, he promised he was going to win Money in the Bank, cash it in. He did all that. He predicted how it was going to go. He didn't predict CM Punk.
Right.
I think at this point now, and then what we saw on Raw between Punk and Rollins, we could talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. As much as I still like CM Punk's character in this angle, it's starting to really make him look like the asshole in this.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, and it's a dangerous part to get when it comes to this rivalry. Why should Punk win after all of this? Whenever a match happens, why should CM Punk win after all of that? Another screw job. This one, a little sloppy. The whole execution felt sloppy. I'm not even talking about Priest not kicking out.
I was going to say that referee probably had to get yelled at after that.
And Triple H kind of referenced that in the press conference where he said it's like that boss when you mess something up and the boss tells somebody else. I look forward to having a conversation with him about that. You know how that conversation is going to go, right? And that's exactly.
When you get a chance, stop by my office later.
Yep. And that's exactly the type of answer Triple H gave in that press conference. He said, and I quote, "I look forward to figuring out what the ref saw that we did not." Because
he's going to wish him well in his future endeavors.
It's what it felt like. And when it came to this, and I mentioned the sloppy execution of it, no, I'm not mentioning that AJ Lee didn't show up, which everyone was rumored to, think she was going to come up. I
at least thought we were going to get a Larry run-in. At the very least.
At the very
least.
Just
biting someone's ankles. I don't know.
He's got the bracelet with both of their names. You think AJ's coming out.
Okay, so what you just mentioned right now, though, that's the thread holding Drew McIntyre as a heel. But even then.
The only thing.
It's the only thing. Well, because outside of that, he's the babyface in this whole thing outside of that.
Well, when Punk explained what he did to Seth on Raw, it made sense, right? Like, Seth's pissed, which he gets it. But at the same time, Punk's like, this dude is walking around with a bracelet, my bracelet with my wife's and my dog's name on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get that. That's, like you said, that is the one thing that is keeping Punk as the face and Drew as the heel here. What I did not like about all of this is this whole, and I don't know what the game plan was with Priest not kicking out there. I don't know if he was supposed to kick out and then the music was supposed to hit. I don't know if that was supposed to be the finish of the match, which feels weird. Because that's not even Seth's finishing move.
No.
I don't know where this was supposed to go if Priest did what he was supposed to do there. But Drew you mentioned, everything he says is right. What makes him such a good heel is he's so damn smart with what he says on social media, what he says in his promos. It's funny, it's clever, it's quick. He's right, and you can't go against any of that.
Right.
This whole cash-in look made him look stupid.
Yeah, it was a failed cash-in.
Failed cash-in or not, from the beginning, you just got robbed by Punk in Scotland.
Yeah.
Why do you not think, if you tell the world leading in, I'm cashing in Toronto, do you not think Punk's going to Toronto?
Drew should have came down that ramp with like a fleet of security guards to surround the ring.
Yes.
And so now I am cashing in when everybody's around this ring.
Exactly. Because of how smart he has been as a heel all the way through, why would he not think of that? I just got screwed by this dude 3 weeks ago. I'm announcing to the world that I'm cashing in tonight. Why would he not think, watch out for Punk? Right?
And then one of the security guards would have taken off the helmet or something in Punk. But
right.
but either way,
but
still.
It still shows that Drew thought ahead.
Well, not even that, but the whole thing about this, and I'm kind of jumping forward here. They kind of like negated the whole thing with the Rollins and Priest discussion backstage. So I'm okay, so the whole opening segment to Raw served no other purpose than to have Rollins look like he was going to kind of lay off Punk a little bit because Punk apologized, but then Punk couldn't help himself in the apology. It's the person that says, okay, I'm sorry, but it's like, okay, no, are you either sorry or you're not?
Like, I'm sorry you're mad, but I'm
sorry that you can't get over what I did.
Yes.
It's just but then the whole backstage segment was like, okay, so then now Rollins really has no reason to be upset about that.
The other thing with Drew not looking smart at all, and this, I cannot stand how dumb he looked in this whole thing at Money in the Bank. Why are you coming out in the middle of the match? Why are you not? You just got cashed in on 3 months ago.
Yeah.
When did Priest cash in? He held that thing for months.
Yep.
He waited for you to go through a whole match, get attacked after the match, and then you're going to go right. You didn't even wait for the match to finish.
No.
You're going to make it a triple threat, so now you got to beat Seth and Priest. Why would Drew, like that, him not waiting till the end of the match?
I didn't understand that.
None of this made sense, and I don't know how much of it was, calling an audible because of what happened, because the timing was weird. Priest didn't kick out, and then Drew's music hits like 15 seconds later.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was just hey, we got to distract from what we just saw because now it's going to look funny.
Why is this match still going on, right? And that could have been like a Triple H just saying, Drew, go. Hit his music.
At that point, Drew's standing right there probably in Gorilla, so it's like, hey, just go, get out there, hit his music, go.
And it's unfortunate that's the case, but all of that on top of not, making sure Punk's not going to be there, with how smart Drew has been. He wasn't on Raw, but man, he looked dumb. He has every right to be mad. I get it. They did the whole thing with Wade Barrett at the post show again, which was awesome. Elbowing Pierce, like that's all great.
Yeah.
But it's still like, dude, this one's on you. You've been robbed by this dude twice, 3 times. Why are you?
In the sake of storyline, it just looks like you're watching a soap opera unfold. You expect this character to kind of learn from what they've been experiencing.
So you mentioned he robbed Seth Rollins as well. We saw a Punk Rollins thing. We know the history there. That was, supposed to be a WrestleMania match this past year. So we know the history there. We know the tension. Are you okay with the possibility for SummerSlam instead of Punk and Drew one-on-one, a triple threat involving Seth Rollins?
Now, what would be are we looking at for a title or for a number one contender shot?
It could be probably a number one contendership. If we got
just
Priest,
given that Priest and Gunther are the assumed match,
right? For SummerSlam, so there would not be a title involved here. At most, to be a number one contender. But I mean, there's enough bad blood between. Shout out to Bad Blood coming back, by the way. There's enough bad blood between these three for it just to be a triple threat street fight. Beat the hell out of each other. Right?
I think you just called out your main event for Bad Blood. But I really I wouldn't mind that match. I think that you can have Seth Rollins go off and be the number one contender after that.
Yeah.
A triple threat match, we've seen those before. Triple threat match to determine a number one contender. Yeah. They're fine, and they push the storyline along. I think to what you were just referencing, and I know we don't get into it too much now. We might get into it later. But the Bad Blood pay-per-view being announced, obviously the history with that, 97 Bad Blood, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, first time ever in the company. What better match, what better rivalry right now is going on? You know what I mean? Than to put that in a Hell in a Cell for Bad Blood.
But are you okay with Punk and Rollins being in the ring together and Punk and Drew being in the ring together before a one-on-one match, right? Because we haven't gotten either of those matches. So, because what else do you do with Seth at SummerSlam? If you pair off Drew and Punk, and obviously we got a world title match, unless you just take over that world title match and insert Seth into that, what else do you do with Seth? Because I thought Money in the Bank was going to create a SummerSlam rivalry for Seth.
Right.
Someone getting involved or something along those lines. They didn't do either of that. And they're keeping Seth right smack dab in the middle of Punk and Drew.
I feel like you almost have to go that route. Otherwise, you're just having somebody at random. You're interjecting a random person who's not even involved in this at all to attack Seth or have an issue with him. Or whether it be, I don't know, whomever or the Wyatt family. I don't know. But for continuity's sake, it would make more sense to go the route of a triple threat match to decide a number one contender.
Yeah, I think that's the way you go. I don't normally love, especially with a feud as big as both Punk and Rollins and Punk and Drew, which, by the way, shout out still to this day, all the BS aside, CM Punk putting on stories amongst, two huge feuds right there centering around him. Both could be WrestleMania matches, right?
Right. What I did like, though, speaking about just going back to that in-ring segment with Punk and Rollins, and to the whole notion of Punk being kind of the antagonist that the fans don't want to treat as an antagonist, Rollins called him out, basically. You make everything about you.
Yes.
Everybody has to be held accountable except for you.
Yes.
You go to this company, you make it about you. You come back to this company, you go here, you go there. Everything's about you, but everybody is the problem except for you. You come here, it's the same thing. And I think that's where I run into, Punk is kind of the bad guy in this, but there's just very little threads holding it together to where he's still,
That's the way to do it. And I think the triple threat makes sense. I think Seth goes over there because Punk and Drew hate each other so much. Seth, whether it's a world title shot against Gunther or Priest again, either of those would do well, which, by the way, speaking of Gunther and Priest, I have officially, while watching Raw, epiphany, I think is the word I'm thinking of.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
It has a lot of syllables.
It's a big word. Sounds good.
Shout out to me, right? No, I had the moment where I'm like, you know what? Priest needs to win at SummerSlam.
Kind of feeling that way too.
But with the Judgment Day, with Rhea coming back, which we'll get to later this week, like everything around Priest, including the world title picture, Finn, the whole Liv Morgan stuff.
Does he win or does he get screwed out of it by Finn?
No. I think he wins because the other reason I did that is, what has Gunther done since winning King of the Ring?
He's been chilling at home.
And that's why I'm like, you know what? The second Gunther won King of the Ring, I'm like world champion at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And then whether it's for him or Triple A, whoever's call it was, to give him weeks and weeks and weeks off where he hasn't had a match. He's had one promo. He hasn't done anything besides packages. Meanwhile, Priest is telling phenomenal stories every single week, layers of it everywhere. Keep that title on Priest.
I'm almost worried if he loses it. I don't know if he's established enough equity as champion and solidified his place enough on the card on Raw or throughout the company to lose that title and then not just go back down into like a lower mid card or, I'm worried about that for him.
Right. And I think that's another reason to keep the world title on him a little longer, because I think your next world champion could be Gunther. Again, I fell off the Gunther train. Not that he's not world champion, but right now, because he hasn't done anything since there's so many stories he could be telling on the side to keep his resume strong right now,
right,
in terms of storytelling. Because Priest is just top to bottom everywhere. That dude's on Raw 6-7 different segments a week.
Right, and I mean, the more important segments of the show. But I'm also thinking too, if Gunther wins that title, do we have him have the stranglehold he had with the Intercontinental title? Now, I don't think they're going to give him that whole year-long plus to whatever reign.
Right.
But it's just like, okay, so then you look at the landscape of Raw. He would probably be serving as a heel champion.
Yes.
Who's going to challenge him outside of 3 or 4 people?
Right.
And if they don't beat him, you're going to run into that same problem that we had with Roman.
And I think whenever you do whatever you're going to do with Finn, it makes it that much more important if the world title's involved. Not that Finn should win the world championship, but I think whenever Finn and Priest have that match, it could be a bad blood match. Talking about bad blood, that'd be a good rivalry if they tell it for a couple months, and that could be a world title match at Bad Blood. I think Priest holds the title until at least Survivor Series.
Yeah, I don't think he makes it to Mania with that title.
I don't think he makes it to Mania, but I think with the storytelling he's been going through recently, I don't know what you do with Gunther. I don't have that answer right now.
Right.
But I don't take that title off Priest. I just don't. I can't do that right now.
It feels like there's a lot more directions to go with Gunther without a championship.
Yes, 100%. And speaking of, when it comes to without being a championship, Solo Sikoa pinning Cody Rhodes. Again, this was another rumor thing. Roman Reigns, is he coming back? And Money in the Bank, never did. But Solo Sikoa pinning Cody Rhodes in that tag team main event. How do you feel about this direction and the possibilities of Solo getting that title shot at SummerSlam?
We have to establish, we can't just have Solo calling himself something of importance, tribal chief, leader of the bloodline, his new bloodline. You have to make it believable. Now, him beating the champion, beating Cody Rhodes, the biggest face in the company, makes it believable. Now whether or not he wins that title, which I don't think he will, him leaving Cody laying, him being a physical threat, him putting Cody in peril and making that and putting that title on the line where it's like Cody might actually lose this title because he has to compete with, the bloodline. Even if you have a Kevin Owens and a Randy Orton having his back, whatever, that could be a whole different discussion.
Sure.
But I don't mind it. I think it was the right way to go. I think Solo getting the pin on Cody solidifies this is the direction we're going to go, and he's obviously a threat to Cody.
Yeah, I said after Money in the Bank that, man, it was a bad show for fantasy bookers, right? Because, man, we had Roman Reigns returning, we had AJ Lee returning, we had Randy Orton turning on Cody Rhodes, and none of those happened, right? I did think they could have done more at Money in the Bank, but in terms of this, you mentioned it. You have to make this whole, whenever Roman Reigns comes back, this whole bloodline thing needs to look important, right? Solo needs to look important. I'm not saying put the title on him.
Essentially, you have to establish that Roman Reigns returning is not going to be him just coming back and making everybody get in line with him.
Yes.
He has to come back now and stand down this bloodline, which is not going to fear him and not respect him as head of the table anymore.
Right, and Solo needs some wins and some quality wins because, again, the dude did nothing but lose after beating John Cena, which, again, another huge story.
And not only that, that's the big thing for Money in the Bank, the biggest thing probably. Not only that, but how long in the last year have you and I and a lot of other people been calling, hey, what are they going to do with Solo? When is Solo going to break out on his own? When he's going to get out of Roman's shadow? Now we're at that point, and people are like, oh well,
it's just
we kind of want Roman, and it's like, well, no, we gotta run with this.
They want you to want Roman, but when Roman comes back, he can't just look like a squash match. This whole bloodline and Solo needs to look like some form of.
They have to be a mountain for him to climb.
Yes, of threat to Roman, and if the Usos are involved, right? And I think Solo getting just a main event spot with Cody at SummerSlam, not winning, that is enough to just give us enough of a threat for when Roman comes back to go, oh, like, this isn't easy for you. Roman, you need to go get some help.
You just said it, because think about the timeline of the bloodline from its inception to now. Of all the back and forth and the twists and turns we saw with that group, what would it take to make a Jey Uso look at Roman and say, I'm coming to help you? Yeah. Roman would have to be facing such a threat.
Yes.
And such a, where everybody in the company, Roman comes back, everybody's going to remember what they had to deal with Roman Reigns.
Yes.
It's going to take a lot for people to look at Roman, especially his family in this company, and say, I can't let my, in their terms, I can't let my Uso go out like that.
Right.
Like something to make I take Jey Uso as the example because Jimmy was back and forth and we don't know what his role is going to be.
It's easy.
Jey Uso's on an upward trajectory. He's on his own thing. He's established himself as a single star.
Yes.
So for him to say, I'm going to move out of my ambitions, I feel terrible looking at my cousin getting beat down like this. I have to help you. It has to be against a group that Roman just cannot overcome.
Well, yeah, they have to look legitimate, right?
Or even better yet, to get someone like Cody Rhodes to say, I'll stand with you and help you.
Right. Well, that's my thing, because whether it's Cody, Jay, Sami Zayn coming back, whatever it may be, they need to actually think that Roman needs help.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is by giving Solo moments like he got at Money in the Bank to make people believe, like, no, we're not going to laugh at the fact that he thinks he's a tribal chief.
Right.
We're going to be like, it needs to be, yo, Roman, you got a problem here.
Yeah.
Because
when you come back, this guy's not going to sit back down.
He's all over the place. It can't be just laughing at, you're not my tribal chief. Get out of here, right?
Roman has to be left laying, and he has to be on this whole thing like Kevin Owens was for a time. You're fighting this group by yourself,
right? And
you're losing.
Do you think Roman Reigns should have returned at Money in the Bank, or should
I don't think so. No, I think that there's still a lot of gas in this tank to keep it moving until to build to that. I think bringing him back at Money in the Bank, one, it would have, especially because we got the Cena announcement, it's too much at once. One of these things is going to get taken from. You can do two things at once. I feel like you overbook it. One thing's going to overshadow the other. But as far as so Cena's announcing he's retiring, which means that's a whole other discussion. But Roman's story is going to continue post Cena.
Yes. Well, yeah, and that's what no one saw the John Cena announcement coming.
Nobody did.
Honestly, leading into Money in the Bank, after what they did to Paul Heyman, I thought right there that Roman was going to be back at Money in the Bank. But then when John Cena came out, you made a perfect point there, announcing what he announced. We can't overshadow John Cena's announcement with the Roman Reigns return.
Even still, honestly, for me, when Money in the Bank, when it was done, when the main event was finished, part of me was still waiting for Roman's music to hit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't think they were going to do it once they all got, okay, they're all out of the ring now. He's not going to come walking behind them. But
I think there's just a lot of high expectations for every PLE for WWE now because they hype it up so much now, right?
Well, each one kind of means something.
Yes.
It's a continual narrative of this story strings into the next one. It's not like this is
but
standalone
they're bigger shows
incidents.
overall, right? Like
Right.
we're not getting a Fast Lane or a No Mercy in the middle of October. Like this is a big stadium.
But even if we did, they
big
mean
city.
something. Yeah.
Right.
And
But this is a big stadium. This is a big city, right? Like the way Money in the Bank is presented is the way SummerSlam's been presented for years, and so many others. So we expect big moments like, yeah, Roman has to return at Money in the Bank. It's like, no, it's still just Money in the Bank, right? And I think if the John Cena announcement doesn't happen, there's a possibility that Roman Reigns does come back at Money in the Bank. I think SummerSlam's the way to do it when Solo challenges Cody for that title. I think, and then you lead into a potential War Games with old Bloodline versus new Bloodline with Roman and Solo. You mentioned John Cena making that announcement real quick. He's given us one last full run in 2025. He's not ending it at WrestleMania, by the way. He says his last WrestleMania. He's going through 2025.
Right, whole year.
What do you want to see in this final run? Whether it's specific matches, do you want to see old rivalries? Do you want to see new? How much do you want him to go over? Do you want a title involved? What is his, like, generically speaking, summarizing, what does his final year need to look like?
He beats Ric Flair's record.
Okay.
And that, no matter what, I mean, I'm sure the
Is
matches.
that Cody's title, or does that world title work?
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
He beats Ric Flair's record in my mind because he is the homegrown WWE talent. It's not John Cena, the guy that is a 16-time champion in AEW, NWA, TNA, and we just melt all those belts together. Ric Flair, greatest of all time, but his championship count came from different places.
Sure.
John Cena to be the GOAT, the 17-time WWE champion or whatever, world champion in WWE. I think no matter what, and I'm sure we're going to have great feuds and rivalries going on during his last run, his farewell tour, but ultimately for me, it has to cap off with he's a 17-time champion.
I'm thinking Vegas, WrestleMania, right? John Cena, Baron Corbin. And you put Corbin over. No, I agree. I think John Cena, and I think if
let's not shoot that idea down. Hold on, let's let that marinate a little bit.
That Kurt Angle meme is just in my head right now.
Kurt Angle, special guest referee. Let's go.
Shout out to Kurt. But no, I think John Cena, if that happens, it has to be with that World Heavyweight title. And I think it again gives that title, not that they haven't, they've done a nice job with it. We've talked about this since they created it.
Right.
It gives it importance, right? Because that was John Cena's 17th world title.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you dethrone Cody. I don't know how long Cody holds this title and who takes it off.
You could have Cody Cena at WrestleMania. You never know. Yeah,
but I don't know that Cena goes over in that match, right? If Cena faces a Damian Priest and beats Damian Priest at WrestleMania to get that 17th world title, Priest being in that spotlight benefits more from that than Cody would losing.
Who do you want to see? Let's assume there's no title involved at WrestleMania for John Cena. Who do you think, in your mind, is the person to one-on-one with him, his last opponent?
I think if you have a heel Randy Orton by April,
perfect.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's waiting on Randy Orton to turn on Cody. If that can happen before April and they can put on a good story for a couple months, right?
Yep.
Now you have a heel Randy Orton going into WrestleMania against babyface John Cena. Hell yeah, give me that.
Now, what if Triple H says, "I have a mystery opponent for you," and you'll find out at WrestleMania who your opponent is, and then at WrestleMania we hear, "Hi guys."
Shut up.
Hey guys,
I am the learning tree.
The learning tree.
Oh my God! The one time WWE does work with AEW.
That's how John Cena goes out. That's the forbidden door that should have been closed.
Corbin's in the back like it could have been me.
It could have been. Dolph Ziggler saying it should have been me.
It should have been me.
Right?
Corbin's
no, but realistically, I all jokes aside, I do think that in my mind too, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
I don't know that I want to see a CM Punk feud with Cena.
No, I don't think it makes sense. For me personally, it's Orton or it's Cody.
Yeah.
That's more so Orton, I think, at WrestleMania. I think
he beats Orton but puts Cody over.
Yeah.
And I think Orton would gladly do that.
Oh, Orton had no problem. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good route to go. But again, we're getting a full run with him. Right?
I mean, through December. He said he's going to do all through December. Now, I don't know what the last show or the last date of December is, but somebody said it was Madison Square Garden. I don't know how true that is. I have to look it up. But that'd be a lot of pomp and circumstance regardless.
Speaking of Money in the Bank, last thing from that, Tiffany Stratton missed Money in the Bank. Chelsea Green going through the table.
Chelsea Green is the MVP of that match.
Chelsea Green is the MVP, the underrated MVP of the women's division for 2024.
Just the whole storyline of her fear of heights and her trying to hit the briefcase down with the ladder. She didn't want to climb it. And the way she went through that table off the top of the ladder, for me, that match, Chelsea Green and Io Sky are the standouts for me personally.
Oh yeah,
I thought they really carried that match along.
I thought you could go either way with Tiffany Stratton or Chelsea Green in this one, but Tiffany Stratton has a larger upside against Chelsea Green.
It was a good choice.
Well, and then the storyline is perfect. I don't think she holds this for that long, right? Because Nia Jax is getting the title match at SummerSlam with Bayley. She's been teaming with Nia Jax. She has a history with Bayley already. Like, there's already so many like built-in storylines with Tiffany Stratton. I don't think she has this briefcase in 2025.
You think she cashes in on Bayley?
I think she could cash in. I don't know if it happens at SummerSlam.
Leaves Bayley laid out.
But I think whoever wins at SummerSlam, not at SummerSlam, but down the line, Tiffany's cashing in on them, right? Yeah. Because I thought a Tiffany-Nia tag team title run would work before Bianca and Jay dropped the titles. Now that they dropped the titles, I don't care for Tiffany and Nia to be in the tag team division, right?
Can you imagine the merch sales of a Tiffany Strattonized women's title?
Oh my God. That just the briefcase alone, dude.
The briefcase itself is going to sell for at least $250. If she wins that championship and razzle dazzles it all out, a little razzmatazz on it, that's going to be a top seller.
I think there's a real possibility Nia wins at SummerSlam. And I think from there, not at SummerSlam, I think down the line you can start a Tiffany-Nia feud, and that's a babyface turn for Tiffany because she's already over with the crowd, and her taking the title off Nia of all people.
Nia has to win it.
Yeah. Bayley's run has been okay.
So.
It's done, but it's not anything I want to see,
Right, and it's not going to hurt. It wouldn't hurt Bayley to lose it. It's not going to she's relegated back to nothing.
Right.
Like, absolutely not. But Nia being the queen of the ring, being obviously the biggest imposing figure in the women's roster, she has to win it.
Tiffany, by the way, if she can hold that title going into WrestleMania, think of the WrestleMania matches you could have, right? If Charlotte Flair is healthy by WrestleMania, that's a Mania-style match. Like, there's so many. I know Bianca, Jade. Name any big name in the women's division, past or present, to go against Tiffany. She can hold her own in a WrestleMania match. Yeah. I think she holds the title going into Mania.
It was a great way to go with her being the Money in the Bank holder.
Over in AEW, MJF is heel yet again, taking out Daniel Garcia. Again, was kind of promising
no dancing
him.
That night.
Yeah, I mean, was trying to promise him a Wembley match and being in his corner for his title match against Ospreay. Had a promo on Collision where he targeted Ospreay a lot. Do you like the decision for MJF to go back full heel here?
I do. I think it kind of... he's just naturally his role. Sure. He's so good at it. And it kind of makes me not care so much anymore about the loose ends that were never tied up with a babyface MJF. Yeah. Like, they still exist, and it was still stupid. But now that he's doing this, it ultimately leads me to where I want to see this heel MJF go after Will Ospreay.
Okay, in a box, I love the segment.
Yeah.
MJF obviously is a great heel.
Yes.
The MJF Ospreay story and match is going to be awesome.
Yes, it is.
Right? Big picture speaking, number one, I don't need MJF to go back and forth so many times. As great as he is, and I'm talking even years ago when he would act like he's a babyface and then swerve us, and he never was. And then he would act like he's friends with a babyface Chris Jericho, and then he never was. And then you're waiting for him to turn on this friend, and then he ends up turning on him. And then he actually goes babyface, and now he's back to being a heel. I don't think you need to do either one with him, because you just said it. He is naturally just an asshole.
Yes.
In the most complimentary way.
Yes.
Right? You don't need to, have him do anything to either extreme for people to love or hate him, right? He can headline any pay-per-view with a big name like Ospreay and not do anything to either extreme, and people are still going to be all in on that story, right? He can get into any baby face, face, and he can get into any heel's face and tell a great story just by being MJF.
Yep.
He doesn't need to pander to the crowd, and he doesn't need to do what he did to Garcia for me to care more about the match. I didn't hate what he did. I didn't hate the segment. I don't hate the story. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think MJF needs to. MJF is obviously a huge star. And he's at the point, he's like a Kevin Owens. He's like a Stone Cold back in the day, right? You don't need to do either to sell what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
He just needs to be MJF.
I will always make the comparison to The Rock. And not necessarily in career-wise, but I'm saying in the sense of being a heel. Rock was always a heel.
Yeah.
Always a heel.
Yeah.
Even in his current incarnation of the Final Boss.
Yeah.
Doing the most dastardly, asshole-ish things. You have a segment of the audience that is still going to cheer him simply because he is The Rock. MJF is that same way. You want to cheer MJF. You want to like MJF. Even when he's being a dick, you get a kick out of things he says.
Sure.
So, did he need to do the excessive beat down on Daniel Garcia? No. He could have just done the kick to the balls or whatever, choked him and yelled at him and left him in the ring.
And then laughed about it and then went off.
And
we
he
could have
comes
been
out. He could come out on Collision, do what he did, or come out on Dynamite, say what he has to say. And it's still, okay, you're a scumbag, you're an asshole, but I'm still going to kind of cheer some of the things you do. It's entertaining.
It just feels like every 6 months we're getting either he panders to the crowd and he goes, ha, I got you.
Yeah.
And then he panders to the crowd and says, you turned on me. And then he panders to the crowd and then turns on his friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, dude, you don't need to try to keep swerving us. We know who you are. We know what you are. And you're awesome at doing it. Just do it. Right? This did not need to happen for me to be sold on an Ospreay MJF story going into All In.
Right.
It just didn't need to happen. Like you said, it could have been as simple as a kick to the balls to Daniel Garcia. We would have laughed about it. Some would have booed, some would have cheered, just like it's happening right now, and we would have cared just that much more about his match with Ospreay at All In.
What does this do for Daniel Garcia?
That's my thing, right? Because Daniel Garcia is sitting in the crowd during the world title match at Forbidden Door.
Right.
And when MJF even mentioned an All-In match at Wembley, that's the one part of this I liked. Because nothing against Daniel Garcia, friend of the show, but you're not ready for a spotlight of an MJF match at Wembley, right? Or a world title match at Wembley, right? Like, we haven't even built you at all, right?
Right.
So that's the one part I liked about this, because when MJF first mentioned that a couple weeks ago, I'm like, hold on. Like,
right.
I like Daniel Garcia.
It's like we're jumping you into a main event match here.
Right.
This, I think, can serve to help build more credibility for Daniel Garcia to try to get his comeuppance on MJF.
Sure.
You could even have a kind of a throwaway match where they just have like a no DQ match where Daniel Garcia, even in losing that match, shows like, I took you to the brink. I hung with you. We're both bloody. We both beat the crap out of each other. And in that alone, Daniel Garcia can benefit from this feud.
I think what you do, and remember, we have All In at the end of August, and then we have All Out at the beginning of September. Shout out to All In and All Out.
That's just, it's clever.
Yeah.
Because when you go all in,
you got to come all out.
If your pull-out game is...
shout out to the pull-out game.
You want to get out.
You got to at some point. But at that point, Daniel Garcia isn't seen till after Wembley. I think MJF turning heel favors him to win it at All In and take the title off Ospreay. I think if this doesn't happen, there's a very good chance that he just puts Ospreay over, a great match, respect, whatever. Now that he's full heel, he can do whatever dastardly things he needs to do, and I think he takes that title off Ospreay at Wembley, and then we can have that match that you mentioned between him and Garcia for the title at All Out, and have MJF go over there.
What if we don't get that? What if in his title match, it looks like Daniel Garcia is going to screw him out of it, but he actually aligns with MJF in some sort of weird,
too much like a Chris Jericho
in some
thing,
sort of
though.
weird, you were right, and I need to basically be under your wing kind of thing.
I wouldn't hate that. That would just feel a little, for me, too much like the Chris Jericho story, where he went back and forth, and Bryan Danielson was trying to take him away, and then it felt like, he was with Jericho, and then he's like, oh, I'm a wrestler. No, wait. You know what I mean? But I think...
He could just go join the patriarchy. He needs a father figure.
Yeah. Where's your dad?
Where's your dad? Where's your dad at?
I think he would benefit more from you can even have it main event All Out, right? Street fight with MJF for the title. He doesn't go over, but like you said, great effort. And I think what it does too, taking that title off Ospreay and Wembley, is you have him wide open for a world title run at some point leading into 2025. So I think this story in the box, I don't hate it. Big picture thinking, I think MJF goes from one extreme to the other a little too much for me, where it's like, dude, just be MJF. And we're either going to hate you and love you for it, and you can go after whoever you want, and it's going to make sense. Yeah. Because you're not a babyface, you're not a heel, you're MJF.
Let the feud dictate what the fans feel. Don't try to force the issue every time.
One last thing before we get out of here. NXT Heatwave, which also was in Toronto Sunday night for a pay-per-view. Ethan Page, your new NXT champion. Shout out to him.
I did not think they were going to go that route. I thought Trick still had some steam left.
No, I think he did, and I think it just, Ethan Page just plays the heel so well, and I think it adds to that. Shout out to Shawn Michaels booking that old Backlash finish for the Fatal 4-Way, falling into the cover. So, learning from experience there. But at the very, 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 very end, we had a Joe Hendry.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. As they went off the air, what do you make of this? How much do you want to see Joe Hendry in NXT? Of course, they've been working with TNA recently.
It's a good bit of fun, and you see the reaction online. Everybody got a kick out of it because it was just this thing where you're watching the show and it's going off the air like any other show, and it's just like, whoop.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Was that on purpose?
I do believe. What happened?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, so I don't want to, since they're doing the kind of crossover, to keep something special, you don't want to oversaturate with it. Yeah. You want it to be a once in a while where people aren't, this is the part where they bring Joe Hendry's going to come out. But I'm open for a few more appearances because Joe Hendry is really exciting to watch.
I think, Joe Hendry is in the world title picture in TNA.
Yeah.
So I think now that Ethan Page is the heel champion that he is, I think Joe Hendry wins that title in TNA. And I think you get at least one. I don't know where you do it, what show you do it. I think you give us one title, champion versus champion, not title for title, but just champion versus champion. You get Joe Hendry a little more exposure on WWE TV. But again, I agree with you. I think once you tell whatever this story is, with Ethan Page or whatever it is, and I think that's what this story should be, he goes back to TNA and he stays there for a little bit.
Well, the cool thing about that is Joe Hendry goes back to TNA where he's signed, and coming into NXT, being all this buzz he has coming around, all these eyes are going to follow him now to TNA. Yeah. Which is the point. It's a win for TNA. Thing. It's a win for WWE and NXT because they get to feature a guy who's like super over, just organically. And now they're like, where's this Joe Hendry guy at when he's on? He's in TNA? I want to go watch TNA and see what he's doing. Right. It's a win for TNA.
Yeah, and I think, again, Hendry can maybe for a month tell a story with Ethan Page. Mm-hmm. And I think he goes away because I'd like to see him in the Royal Rumble in January. Yeah. Or February, I'm sorry. February
Hold on.
1st.
Yeah, we're just...
Whoa. February 1st.
He eliminates John Cena.
Yeah. Right. I mean, whatever it is, I think...
Joe Hendry and John Cena at WrestleMania.
But you want that moment to feel special. Yeah. And I think Joe Hendry being away from NXT TV for, at that point, what should be 5 months or so, it would make that moment feel special. If you keep, constantly bringing them on NXT, that potential Royal Rumble appearance that everyone's going to be clamoring for in 2025 is going to feel a little less special. If you keep throwing them at us.
You're right, and you want it to be just like what we saw at the end of Heatwave. You're not expecting a Joe Hendry appearance in any way, shape, or form. Nope. You want that to be the same thing for the Royal Rumble. We had him in NXT for a bit, comes in, does his thing. When you're watching the Rumble, you don't want to be every number is going to be Joe Hendry. It's like, no, probably not. We're thinking about this whole other storyline. Yep. And then, oh my God, number 19 is Joe Hendry randomly.
Exactly.
So,
and that moment just pops the crowd.
The crowd's going to go nuts, yeah.
Roar Around the Ring is available every week. Find us on YouTube at Roar Around the Ring. He's at Dude Darrell Daryl Taylor. I'm Justin Valentine. Talk to you guys very soon.